And we should now have draft 3.2 with a timestamp of 1:45 p.m. up there at the bottom under Tim's name. Right there at the last page with this change, right?
Yes. And sorry, again, for the record, name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. The change made in draft 3.2 will appear, well, it won't really appear because it's an omission, but it reads across lines 14 and 16. And it will now read Section 8 rule adoption deadline on or before July 1st, 2025. The Vermont Criminal Justice Council shall adopt the rules regarding alternative routes to the certification required by 20 VSA Section 2355A1.
And so because it's on or before, if they want to adopt those rules earlier, they have all the flexibility they need, right? We're not,
Yes.
by removing that finally language, we're not tripping them up in any way.
No, you're correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Devlin before we lose him to our Senate colleagues? All right. Tim, thank you for your hard work on this bill, and I hope that you have a restful weekend and are feeling 100% better when we see you next week.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're missing Mr. Hooper and Mr. Moroki and Mr. Byron here. And it is now 5:00. So let's just relax for a minute and I'll see if I can scoop up our colleagues from the hallway.
While you're doing that, I'm going to run next door to approach right quick.
It is to me.
You saw that?
Oh, yeah?
What is it?
All right.
It's a, when you walked in, dropped out. If you walked in or dropped out.
I said that's on it.
Hey, Secretary French is leaving?
What? Is he?
Yeah. Well, so we're staying on live just for expediency's sake, so, but we're just kind of standing at ease.
Let's put our names on.
Well, he's got to just want his stuff.
Am I supposed to pass this around?
I can't.
Dropped out, yeah.
I don't know.
It just doesn't matter.
I like him.
Oh, it is an opt-out?
It's
Patty's gonna do all the
I
other
talked to
things?
Patty.
Okay, that's fine.
She's on.
Well, then she should send it to us.
She's gonna send it.
Send out on.
They gotta
Got it.
What, I'm using you two as
A litmus test.
weather of.
coming our way.
How's
The yards. For this Robert.
I think they're building into the bill.
Oh, that's all factual.
Yeah.
Guys,
If it's the same bill, they're putting in some kind of
a lot of other people should aspire to be there.
PCB remediation for Burlington only, based on
I swore.
contracts. Yeah, I should stop speaking.
Sunday school.
PCV?
You had to get a reservation.
Yeah, but I imagine that thing will drop right
He was
down.
president when I went in the military, 1979.
Have bigger
No, all our
When I
schools.
went to the Air Force Academy.
Yeah,
No. Politically?
Many schools don't know their issues yet,
They're not.
because the testing hasn't been done or hasn't come back, just so you know. Burlington knows because they're Burlington.
By any means.
No.
I don't believe.
and it will be on fire sooner than any pupil.
Most of this should point to his.
Oh, very important.
And,
Oh, you were clear about that up front. Yep.
yes,
All right.
They think he doesn't have long. So they think he does not have long.
Well, there's a limited number
Unknown.
for testing only right now. So
Yeah.
What's he, 96?
somebody out there for-
Me? It is still, he's still here.
95.
She's not-
right. No, it's There's no money.
He's gotta be the guy that's probably
Why would we,
longest post-presidency.
sign ourselves up for a big old price tag?
1980.
Don't know how to deal with this, like we usually do.
Maybe one, but I don't know the color.
Plus, Jay, they want to take it right now out of the education I'll see you in the air.
All right, thank you all for the delay here while we tried to get everybody on the committee here. So we're gonna pick up our work here on our Criminal Justice Council bill, draft 230959. And before I entertain motion, I just wanted to see if anybody on the committee had any comment, questions. Representative Hango.
Yeah, I'm just going to comment that listening to the chief of police from the St. Albans Police Department didn't really answer my question, my fundamental question, which is what is going to happen during the transition process. He seemed a little bit concerned about how that was going to affect maybe his scheduling or budgeting for the next year or so until we get this look back and in next January and hear how this is going to be implemented. But that all doesn't mean that I don't support all of the pieces of this bill. Certainly the sexual and domestic violence piece is very important. Fair and impartial policing, all of these concepts are very important concepts to me. But like I said before, I'm a rules person. I really need to know what's going to happen in the interim. And I did not get that question answered. So I'm hesitant to vote for it.
Can you help me understand, Representative Hango? So what we're doing here with this bill is, so we're cleaning up some references to a required number of hours. There's already, as we heard in testimony from Chief Lamont, sort of a specific annual amount of total required training to continuously educate and train our certified law enforcement officers. And we're not changing that here. So I'm trying to understand the idea of there isn't so much a transition period as an endorsement of an already ongoing move toward competency versus having us list out numbers of hours. So I guess I'm trying to understand the idea behind the specific concern. I think we had given the chief some hypotheticals that he responded to, and he was basically saying, if you did increase the total number of hours, or you said in order to achieve proficiency, you've got to come down to the academy and spend a lot more time, that would have a burden. And I really heard that. And I think that's not where the Criminal Justice Council and all their testimony said we were going with this.
I don't know what you're asking me.
Oh, I guess I'm just asking I don't know that there's so much a transition period as much as we're just having our law reflect the ongoing process that's already underway.
I guess I just really then don't understand what currently is happening that we're not changing to reflect, as Director Simon says, we're certainly not getting rid of hours. We could be increasing our amount of training.
On the specific area of fair and impartial policing, yeah, that is.
Yeah, so how is that not going to be burdensome to individual agencies, departments?
Well, I think the way that it's not burdensome is that it'll be woven in with training that they're already doing. For instance, if they're doing de-escalation training and how they speak to a specific type of person, that kind of cultural competency, the ability to understand that, one type of individual from a specific racial or ethnic background might have a different, that could be woven into that training. And so the number of hours might not increase, but the skill and the competency of understanding how to reduce bias and be fair and impartial might be woven into other training. That's the whole idea here.
Understand that. However, someone may take longer than another person. An individual may take longer than another individual to grasp that competency and be deemed competent. And then the other question that the chief brought up was, I have it written down here somewhere, who actually would be trained and how would they be trained to be the sort of gatekeepers of competency? Like where are these people going to be trained, by whom, and how are they then going to say, okay, this officer is now competent? What are the guideposts? And I know we're giving that to the CJC to make up rules to explain what competency looks like. But there again, being a role person, I'm gonna be voting for something that I have no idea what the outcome is gonna look like.
So I think what might be helpful to us as we move forward, and we're going to continue to work on criminal justice council, is to understand that the only new rulemaking authority that's contemplated in this specific bill has to do with ARAD. All of the other authority to establish standards for training, it exists in statute. It isn't really addressed here, except for these two specific pieces around fair and impartial policing and ARAD. And then all of the other establishment of standards and competencies, it's definitely in there, but it's not in this bill. So we're basically saying overall, we're moving from required hours to competency, and then these two specific areas where the statute was really prescriptive, but it's kind of vague about whether it still applies because of these old dates, we're clearing that up. And we're saying overall, go forth, do your thing. Criminal Justice Council, continue to train officers well, put well-informed, well-trained people in the service of public safety. But we're not changing the overarching kind of mission of the Criminal Justice Council or their ability to set standards and develop curricula.
But we don't know what that's gonna look like. We don't know what their training is gonna look like.
I'm curious. This is committee discussion right now.
Oh, yeah, that's where we're at.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, but we're basically waiting on the outcome of a transition that will happen inevitably, whether or not we pass this bill. It sounds like you, Representative Hango, just are not feeling a strong sense of trust in that work. What's the?
I just don't know what that work is gonna look like how they're gonna come up with this and what they're going to come up with as an outcome. I mean, when I vote on a budget, I know what the number is, right? I can say yes or no, or let's change that number.
Sure.
This, I have no idea really what I'm voting for, except to say, here you go. We're striking everything that we had and go ahead and do your thing and do what you do best.
Right.
Representative Waters.
There's a curriculum that already exists, correct? Like they're not creating this. I don't know. That's what the acronym, IAD list.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
absolutely true, yes.
So I think that is what they're doing, is carrying through with a program that's already exists and implemented, right?
Yeah,
So-
and in their budget request too.
Yeah.
They want to do the job task analysis. So you'll recall way back when we were commenting on their budget, there's money in their budget to adopt, the sort of 3-year plan. And they want to take essentially what they've started to do and have it accredited by IADList. So the idea by giving them the flexibility to get around, some of these vague requirements around number of hours and also around ARID, not to have to do it for every single officer that's certified, which turns out is kind of impossible from a resource standpoint, to move toward adopting those IADList standards. And it sounded like from what the testimony we heard from the folks from IADList this morning is they're already kind of ahead of the game. And so now we can kind of put the IADList stamp of approval and maybe make some tweaks and modifications. And I think when we get the report back, a lot of what we're going to hear next year when that report does come back is about, what the interrelationship between the current curriculum and the IADList standards ends up being. Representative Hanko.
Yeah, so I guess I need the information that's coming from the report. I think that's
Yeah.
probably what it's coming down to.
We'll have that in January.
Yeah.
We'll be here. Great. Any further discussion on this one? I would entertain a motion to report favorably the committee bill 230959 draft 3.2 with the timestamp of 1:45. So Representative Morgan has moved draft 3.2. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk should call the roll.
Representative Byram,
Yes.
Representative Boyden, yes. Representative Hango,
No,
Representative Morgan,
Yes.
Representative Hooper of Burlington,
Yes.
Representative Markey,
Yes.
Representative Chase,
Yes.
Representative Wise Evans,
Yes.
Representative Hooper of Randolph,
Yes.
Representative Nugent, Representative Higley,
Yes.
Representative McCarthy,
Yes.
10-1-1.
Thank you all so much for getting all of these bills out this weekend, this week, excuse me. I think we've all earned our crossover Girl Scout badges. This bill, I think is really just the start of a broader move toward competency. And it also cleans up a couple of things that are important in terms of specifying date and time. I think a piece we didn't talk about much today that the public should be aware of is that we're requiring that when an officer is hired, that the hiring agency needs to look back not just at their current and most recent employer, but through their history of employment to see if there've been any issues. And those are all important parts of this bill as well, beyond just the training that we focused on today. Great work. Thank you all. We have a lot of committee reports and work that's going to go on next week. I wanted to let the committee know that there's been a request that will be taken up on Thursday from staff at Department of Corrections, and I'll be inviting the commissioner and staff to come in and talk to us a little bit about staffing levels and compensation at the department. There has also been a request that we make good on our commitment to come back to the Medicare Advantage question. So we'll be taking a look at that, I think, on Wednesday. On Thursday afternoon, or excuse me, on Tuesday afternoon, we have a couple of small pieces. OPR wanted us to learn a little bit about some emergency rules that have been in place but will be expiring about notaries. So kind of to give LCAR a signal. So be aware of that. We'll be hearing about a couple of things like that on Tuesday afternoon. But next week will be really heavy on the floor and a lot less heavy, I think, except for those a couple of conversations around employment and benefits stuff, but a lot less policy here. And we will leave time in the schedule if there are amendments that are proposed on some of the bills that we have in motion. Representative Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since it's so early on a Friday and we're getting paid until the sun goes down, I wonder if we can just pick a bill off the wall, pass it forward, and you want to throw a dart?
Or a resolution?
Or a resolution.
I would say on that point. So there's a couple of different things sort of about the massive amount of bills on our wall that I do want to say for comment. So we have a number of bills that relate to charters. Those are not subject to the crossover deadline. I just wanted to make everybody clear about that. So I've been pushing them off until we got past this deadline so that we can take some of those up after the rush of policy crossover. So we'll be starting next week to hear about a couple of those charter changes and try to move them or at least hear them. It's not our obligation to move all of them, but I think some of them are pretty straightforward. Others we may need to take more time on or may deem that they don't work. But we'll start some of that work on charter changes. There's also a number of bills that have kind of a small general authority change around municipal law and municipal authority that I think we might look to next year and see if we want to kind of put some of these together that seem like reasonable tweaks to municipal law. But if there are specific bills now that we're getting past the crossover deadline that folks want to take a peek at, do an introduction on, if there's anything that seems pressing or that seems like it particularly is aligned with a Senate bill or two that might come, I definitely want to hear the committee's thoughts on how we best respectfully and efficiently take a look at this massive amount of policy that's on our wall. But I do want to continue to give each bill.
We should pass out Jonathan Williams' bill.
I was just thinking that.
Jonathan,
What is that?
The one where you have one-stop shop for all the opportunities.
Oh, that thing. Yeah. I remember that
Or
walkthrough.
did we already?
I know we took a look at it, but we didn't pass it. But I think that we may have opportunity to attach that to something.
All right.
It's one of those that's been on my mind. There's also a bill, like, I don't see any problem with the abating de minimis amounts of taxes piece that's in H19, but I think we might be able to take a look at that too.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We had a small subcommittee that looked at some of the military stuff, and there's, I think, several bills up there that sort of fit in the same box. Is there objection to maybe looking at those combined into a committee bill, which also does not fall victim to crossover?
Well, if there is one that's germane, so the trick we have, and the reason why last week I really pushed the committee to say, what do we need to get on the schedule, is because, we have this policy crossover date. If there's a bill that's germane that is moving, then absolutely, I'm open to doing that, but we need to make a plan on who we need to hear from. And
Yeah, because you asked about that, Lucy. While back. Yeah.
yeah, so that's
Lucy had asked about that a couple weeks ago.
All right.
but I think we will be seeing a handful of bills come over for the Senate. So there are things that are.
There's a Boyden bill right here. Electronic signatures. Ballot petitions. We should bury that one.
No.
Never
Don't want to disparage anyone's bills. That's not what we're here for.
You're right.
Somehow I think you guys gonna vote on that.
We are still live.
So we've done a lot. I mean, I think we did 12 bills. And,
I mean, it's like, are we counting the ones we bundled into committee bills as an individual bill, or?
Well, then it's even more,
Yeah,
right?
it's even, I mean, we actually off the wall, we're up around like, so.
A lot of committees don't even have that many bills on their wall.
8,
No, you're
9,
like-
10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
A couple of them don't even have
15,
10.
16 if you count the bundles.
So the bundles counted.
Not bad for basically 8 weeks worth of work.
Yeah.
That's a bill and a half every.
Yep. Week.
We
We started off.
I have
with a lot of
one
It's not the quantity of bills,
It's
it's
the-
the quality.
Yeah.
5 bills per week rate.
So there's another piece that I didn't announce for next week that I think you'll all find exciting. Plan on Friday afternoon, we're going to take a visit to Sheriff Marcoux and the Memorial Valley Sheriff, along with our Senate Gov.Ops colleagues. So we'll do another
Friday
field trip on Friday afternoon.
You remember that I'm not going to be here.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Zoom
Representative.
you in. You'll be inside of the Zoom.
We won't take any votes.
We can just set up like a
Body cam.
iPhone.
A body cam.
She can,
And then the whole
Yeah.
time you're like, hey.
It'll be in the car.
we can just FaceTime.
There you go.
Do you suppose we could maybe get an opportunity to go down to the police academy while they're and sort of just observe some segment to that?
I think that's a great suggestion. The other thing that I think might be useful, and it's now that we've kind of passed our cannabis bill, it might be useful for us at some point in our work in the next year to visit a couple of licensees and actually, go with somebody from the Cannabis Control Board and see what the inspectors look for and understand some of the sort of in-person realities of the emerging market too. So that's a good suggestion. I had talked with Chair Pepper about, seeing a little bit about how the Cannabis Control Board's
Particularly
regulations are playing out in real life.
particularly with regard to that email we got. today.
What email?
From Joan
Guy
Rogers.
that's having product pulled off the shelf.
Oh, yes. I gave that a run through earlier today. It's definitely something to revisit if you haven't seen it yet. It wasn't all members, not one specific to the committee. It was passed through the sergeant.
I haven't seen it, but
It popped up weird because it was a pass through from sergeant.
yeah, I mean, if our bill is moving through a couple money committees, and if there's something that we need to respond to with an amendment or something, I'm not opposed to doing that if there's something wild going on. But yeah, committee, great work. this week, this session so far. I am still trying to figure out a date for a committee dinner for us, which is long overdue. We've been having great breakfasts in here, but it'd be good to get us all together out of here. But great. So we'll be back we're going to go back to a 1:15 Tuesday afternoon. Pick up a couple of things in committee next week. I think floors are going to be pretty long Wednesday, Thursday, next Thursday.
Yeah.
So we will not have after floor on our schedule for Wednesday or Thursday. We'll just be doing the mornings. With that,
Are you gonna meet earlier in the morning?
no, next week, 9 o'clock.
Meet on Wednesday, Thursday.
Next week's gonna be fun.
Yes.
All the weeks have been fun.
No, I mean like politically.
As was said on the floor yesterday, hydrate, bring snacks.
Politically fun.
Yeah, maybe.